Listen for a moment last and hear me tell my tale. How o'er the seas from England's shore I was condemned to sail. The jury found me guilty, sir, and said the judge, said he, for life, Jim Jones, I sentence you across the stormy sea.
Welcome to Newcastle Family History Society podcasts. The Newcastle Family History Society, located on Awabakal land in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia, provides support for those interested in family history. In the 20-year period between 1804 and 1824, over 1,500 female convicts were sent to Newcastle and the Hunter Valley. Mary Higgins was one of the first. Mel Woodford tells her story.
Mary Higgins was one of the first female convicts to find herself in the newly established penal settlement of Newcastle in 1804. Following the closure of the earlier Coal River Harbour settlement, which had been abandoned by Governor Philip Gidley King in late January 1802, a place of secondary transportation was urgently required to house those rebels who took part in the Castle Hill riot of early March 1804. They needed to be sufficiently distant from Sydney to make escape difficult and close enough to a good harbour and valuable resources to utilise convict labour for the benefit of the colony. Coal, cedar and lime were plentiful in the area, so Newcastle ticked all the boxes. Young Lieutenant Charles Menzies, just 21 years of age, who had been in charge of a detachment of Marines sent to quell the riot at Castle Hill, saw an opportunity for advancement when he discovered that Governor King was about to reopen the settlement at Newcastle. He offered his services as superintendent, and his offer was accepted. Governor King issued the following statement on March 25th.
His Excellency the Governor is pleased to announce that Lieutenant Charles Menzies has been sworn in as a magistrate for the settlement and county, which is hereafter to be distinguished by the name of Newcastle in the county of Northumberland.
In the muster carried out by the young commandant on the 12th of July 1804, we find 20 civil officers and military, 55 male convicts, 5 female convicts, 4 free women, and 10 children. It is unlikely that Mary was amongst those first 5 female convicts, but she does appear to be in Newcastle by the end of July. Mary Higgins, née Tyrrell, at 21 years of age, was charged with stealing and convicted at Dublin City Court in 1802. Her sentence was 7 years' transportation to the colony of New South Wales. She was recorded as having been married with 2 young children at the time of her conviction. Mary was destined to sail aboard the Roller from Cork on the 4th of November that same year, together with 163 other convicts, both male and female. The voyage was to take 189 days, a little over 6 months. 15 of the 37 female convicts on board had also been tried in Dublin City during 1802, so it is most likely that Mary knew many of her companions. More than 50 of the male convicts had likewise been convicted in Dublin. The master of the Roller was Robert Cumming, and the surgeon, John Buist. No surgeon's journal survives from that journey. However, newspapers of the day report that the ship arrived in Rio de Janeiro on the 15th of January 1803 and sailed again on the 6th of February. A stay of some 22 days in port. The remainder of the voyage was extremely rough, so much so that the ship lost her main mast, and storms carried off her main yard. Things must have been most unpleasant for all those on board. The roller arrived in Port Jackson on the 12th of May 1803. Besides her cargo of convicts, the ship brought a large supply of much anticipated beef and pork for the colony. The Sydney Gazette of Sunday 22nd of May also advertised
an extensive assortment of goods imported per the ship roller, now open for inspection and sale, and will be disposed of on the most reasonable terms.
The assortment of items included
Ladies' Spanish and Moroccan shoes, ladies' embroidered sandals, men's fine and stout shoes, shirts plain and frilled, swandown waistcoats, blue cloth jackets, ladies' and gentlemen's tan, beaver and other gloves, pins, needles and thimbles, saucepans and frying pans, oval and other pudding pans, coffee pots and tin tea kettles of different sizes, tinder boxes and flints, candlesticks and lamps, carpenter's tools, a large assortment, razors and pocket knives, nails from 6 penny, 2-inch, up to 40 penny, 5-inch, sheet iron, and a large assortment of ironmongery in general. Gentlemen's fine hats, with many other useful and necessary articles.
The list gives us a wonderful insight into what was considered necessary or desirable to those living in the new colony and having funds at their disposal during those early years. On the 30th of June 1804, in the name of Tyrrell, Mary came before the bench of magistrates for disorderly conduct, where she was given a colonial sentence to Newcastle. She was to be held in custody until suitable transport could be arranged. Only 3 to 4 months into its re-establishment, Mary would go to a very basic settlement with few other women and mainly convict men who had participated in the recent Castle Hill Rebellion. 6 of those men were on board the roller with Mary when it arrived from Ireland. 3 had already been executed for their part in the rebellion. It appears that Mary soon struck up a relationship with Richard Horner, a former convict transported on the Coromandel. Richard's convict indent gave his occupation as surgeon and apothecary, and it was this which secured him a position as assistant surgeon in Newcastle. The 1828 Paracensus of Australia, which is a compilation of many primary sources from 1788 until 1828, shows Dr. Horner as the head of a family consisting of Mary Horner, Tyrrell, James Horner, their son, born in 1808, Mary Ann Horner, their daughter, born 1816, a Richard Horner, born New South Wales, but no year given, and Sarah Horner, their daughter, born 1815. Other records show another daughter, Margaret, born in 1814 and dying as an infant. Horner's relationship with the then Commandant of Newcastle, Lieutenant Purcell, was at best strained. The two locked horns frequently, with Purcell accusing Horner of undermining his authority wherever possible. The Commandant had also made some scathing comments about Horner's servant and common-law wife, Mary. In early 1811, Mr. W. Evans was appointed assistant surgeon in Newcastle, and Richard Horner, Mary and their children were permitted to return to Sydney. Richard was, for a short period mid-year, to return to Newcastle when Mr. Evans was himself facing an investigation. Richard Horner died in April 1816, aged 43, leaving Mary alone with their 3 surviving children, James, 8, Sarah, 1, and Mary Ann, a baby. The 1822 muster shows James, 14, Sarah, 7, and Mary Ann, 6, listed as the children of Mary Tyrrell living in Windsor. The 1828 muster shows Mary Horner Whiteman, 47, living with William Whiteman, 50, who arrived on the Hercules in 1802 with a life sentence. They were in the district of Evan on the eastern side of the Nepean River in Sydney's west. Sarah, 13, and Mary, 12, were recorded as living with them. Later records show daughter Sarah marrying a John Slack and having a number of children. Daughter Mary Ann marries more than once and also has a number of children. She is buried as Mary Ann McGill. James proved difficult to trace, and it appears he may have died in his mid-40s in Sydney. What became of Mary's husband and children in Ireland before she came to New South Wales is unknown. Mary died on the 15th of June 1847, aged 66 or 67. She is buried in the Catholic section of Hartley Cemetery near Lithgow. She may have been living with her daughter at that time. In the plot next to hers, we find two of her grandchildren, the children of Sarah, who died young, months apart in 1852. Mary's legacy lives on through her many descendants.
An initiative of the Newcastle Family History Society is a dedicated website, Female Convicts of the Hunter Valley, or one word, no spaces, .com.au, which provides information about the female convicts who came to the Hunter Valley at some stage during their lives. The Felonious Females podcast series will draw from this resource and continue to bring to life both the stories of female convicts and the local history of our area. We hope you'll continue to join us on Newcastle Family History Society podcasts.
Listen for